Playing for one another was probably not the response that you would expect.
If you're Andy Dalton, are you surprised how little response you got from your teammates there?
That's a great question. Andy Dalton rocked, if you are not familiar with what happened in the third quarter, by Jon Bostic. Suspension-worthy hit in the minds of many. And then nobody for the Cowboys came up to defend Andy Dalton. None of his linemen, none of his running backs, none of his wide receivers. Nobody came off the sideline in a moment of rage or emotion. Mike McCarthy let his team have it afterwards, saying that was totally unacceptable. Let's bring in Dan Orlovsky, our ESPN NFL analyst, dozen years in the NFL at the QB position. Dan, I guess let's start right there. What did you make of that before we get into what you think the Cowboys should do here QB-wise before the deadline?
It's the most embarrassing moment of the season, and a season full of embarrassing moments for the Cowboys. I mean, don't tell me you have my back, show me. I mean, this is the same football team, Z, that 3 weeks ago told us, well, we can't play hard for all 70 plays. That's just too much to ask of us. Okay, that's cool. Well, you guys got 53 individuals, and you can tell me all you want in Dallas about the scheme fit and how their players aren't put in positions to be successful. This is their biggest problem. They got 53 individuals. They don't care about each other like they should as teammates and brothers. You know, Key knows this, and Jay, I don't know what it's like in basketball, but like football is one of those sports where like it forces you every single day to go home and look at yourself in the mirror and be like, was I physically invested? Was I physically tough enough? Because a lot of times it's a choice. Like, am I physically tough enough to go play that game with my brothers? And the Cowboys just aren't. They don't care enough right now. And they're a bunch of individuals. It's embarrassing. I don't want to hear that they got backup offensive linemen in the game. Ezekiel Elliott's not a backup. Amari Cooper's not a backup. Gallup's not a backup. CeeDee Lamb, they're not backups. I don't want to hear that they're beat up and those backups aren't used to being in that moment. Dude, you're taught from a very early age in football, you don't let anybody punk you or your teammates. There's a big difference between getting beat up on the scoreboard because you're not good enough. I get all that. And there's a big difference in getting punked and then taking that punking. And that's what the Cowboys did in that moment. That's the most embarrassing moment this season for Dallas.
Let me ask you this, Dan, and for me, I wouldn't care who's on the field. If that happened to my teammate, then I'm going to take the L, get kicked out, suspended, whatever the case may be, within the rules, obviously. Not trying to hurt anybody's career, but I'm going to do something. If that's Dak Prescott, is that reaction a little bit different?
It's a mauling. I mean, that's Dak Prescott. Guys are coming from everywhere. I mean, Jon Bostic is going to have a big-time problem in that moment if that's Dak Prescott. Shoot, Key, if that's most quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, yeah. I'll be honest with you. If that was me, I had this conversation with a couple guys that I played with, offensive linemen, that were not bona fide starters in the league. I said, guys, if that was me and you guys were on the field with me, I am 100% confident that you guys are going to go and throw hands with Jon Bostic. If that's Dak Prescott, the whole sideline is erupting for Dallas. And I think that's one of those illuminating moments, again, that Dak Prescott was so important to this team, and I undervalued it. A lot of us undervalued, like, not just the performance on the field, but the heartbeat, the soul, the toughness of that organization resided in one player. It was Dak Prescott. And the reality that them not doing anything, like not a single, Amari Cooper stood there and just watched it. He watched it. He watched what happened to Andy Dalton standing over him and did nothing. Yeah. And did not a single thing. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, that would never happen with me on the field. I don't care what nobody says. Right. Hey, Dan, as you look at the quarterbacks that are out there that the Cowboys should try and go get, obviously the one name that's going to pop up is Colin Kaepernick. They'd rather lose every single game by forfeit, I'm sure, before they sign that. And then when you look at Ryan Fitzpatrick for trade, maybe Jameis Winston, Tyrod Taylor, Matt Ryan, Mitch Trubisky. Matt Ryan probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but Mitch Trubisky could make sense given the fact that he didn't get his option picked up. There's not a whole lot of money there left for him. Who should they go get?
Yeah, Trubisky's an interesting name because I can't imagine that Chicago would not give him away for something that's a fair price. I think he also fits, like, style-wise. You could do quarterback run with him, which, you know, Dallas started to do a little bit with Dak Prescott. Ryan Fitzpatrick is somebody that you go, we know that he can come in. He's smart enough to run relatively an NFL offense as quickly as possible. But I'll be honest with you, Key, I don't know if Cowboys or if quarterbacks their big issue. They're a really bad team. I think that's just at some point we got to sit here and say that that's a really bad football team. And he can't go play linebacker. They got two of the worst disciplined linebackers in the NFL when it comes to eye discipline. Their secondary's not good. No one should be kidding themselves thinking if the Cowboys make a quarterback move, they're all of a sudden going to become a much better football team. So I get it that there's thought of we got to go find a quarterback, but they got way, way, way bigger issues than just a guy taking the snap.
Dio, let me ask you this. If you were a quarterback, would you even want to go to the Dallas Cowboys?
No. That's a good question.
No. Why would? No, I mean, if I'm first of all, your offensive line is beat up. That is a reality. So you're getting attacked in the blitz scheme. The running back has done nothing but hurt your football team. They got good receivers, we know that, but you got to score 40 a game. To win the game, you got to score 40. And so you might be able to go and play relatively well, but you're still going to get pegged as not good enough because you have to go play perfect football at the position. And Jay, it's a great question because if I'm sitting there going, if I'm Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't want to leave the Miami locker room. He's a week away from saying he felt like that was his football team. If I'm Mitchell Trubisky, it's not a place that you want to go start over. And Chicago's going to go on a run. Tyrod Taylor, you just never know with the rookie quarterback, and I'm sure that he's impacting Justin Herbert. Matt Ryan's not wanting to leave Atlanta. Dallas is nowhere where I would want to go play quarterback.
Talking about quarterbacks, there were two last night that was on display. Russell Wilson, obviously, but Kyler Murray, be quiet. I'm watching you. I'm periffing you laughing, boy. I can see everything. Hey, Dan, what did you make of the performance by Kyler Murray last night?
Absolutely remarkable. Kyler came into this season with high expectations, and the first two games played really, really well. And then he had this 2-week stretch where, he didn't play that great, and he wasn't seeing coverage good. He was struggling versus zone pressure. And then, the last 3 weeks, it's kind of been like he's settled in, Key. And we talk about, I remember when Kyler was coming out of school, everyone continued to talk about, well, his height, he's not going to be big enough, and, those hits will add up. And I think almost like with Lamar Jackson, we undervalued his competitive spirit. When I watched him yesterday get on the sidelines and start getting fiery with his teammates, and you could see the hug here with 81, he was getting in 81's face yesterday when he missed that block for that quick little ball out to Hop. He missed the block onto the perimeter. I think we undervalued this kid's competitive spirit. And it's just, we kind of phrase it as the will to win, just that drive to go be great. And he's settled into the nuance of the position and how to manipulate people with his eyes. He's a fantastic thrower of the football. And he's the fastest person on the field every time he gets on the field. So, it's just an incredible performance. To have it on national television was great, and to do it against a guy like Russell Wilson, who's, leading the MVP vote right now, it was a kind of a coming out party for Kyler.
Dan, is Kyler Murray the best rushing QB in the National Football League?
Yes, because they use him as a rusher. They utilize him as a... Lamar is still up there, Jay. I can't take that kind of throne from Lamar, but if you're going to tell me who's the best thrower and rusher of the football, like a situational designed rusher, I think it's Kyler Murray. He's a better, more accurate passer than Lamar. Russell's more creative, where Kyler's used as a weapon in the run game more. And so I think if you're asking me, who's the best thrower of the football, did you guys see the play where he laughs mid-play when he's got DeAndre Hopkins one-on-one? That's so disrespectful. That... The combination of a passer, but the situational and strategic runner, I think he's the best in the NFL at that right now.
A reminder, Dan Orlovsky joined us this morning on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Pennzoil synthetic motor oil is made from natural gas. It gives you unbeatable engine protection. The proof's in the Pennzoil based on Sequence 4A wear test using SAE 5W30. We just got him warmed up. He'll be firing off the hot take.